The Bliss Business Podcast, the show about empathy, connection, and consciousness in business. Today's episode is brought to you by Zero Company, your paid search, social media, and programmatic ad experts.
Welcome back to the Marketing with Purpose series of the Bliss Business Podcast, where we explore what it really takes for marketing leaders to create impact that goes beyond the numbers. I'm Tulio, and in each episode, we sit down with a marketing expert to explore their leadership approach and strategies that drive performance and resonate with their audience. Together, we'll dive into what's working, what's not, and how purpose and empathy can transform the way brands connect with people. So let's get started. Today, I'm joined by Ben Cohen, who's the Chief Marketing Officer at French Florist. Ben is a performance marketing leader with more than 20 years of experience building and scaling marketing organizations. After developing marketing strategy for Fortune 500 brands like Adidas, ExxonMobil, and Johnson & Johnson, he spent over a decade helping franchise brands grow, including scaling the Good Feet store from 100 to 300 locations. Today, he leads French Florist national expansion with a data-driven approach focused on customer acquisition, lifetime value, and measurable business growth. We're going to explore turning marketing into a revenue engine. And I'm excited to dive in and see how marketing can become one of the most powerful drivers for sustainable growth. So let's get right into it. Ben, before we dive in, I'd love to hear, why was turning marketing into a revenue engine the topic you chose to explore with us today? And why do you think that's so important, especially right now?
I think it's probably the most important question for marketing, and that is, what is the ROI on what we are doing? So at the end of the day, marketing can produce things that are attractive, that are pretty, but it's ultimately about growing the business. If the work that you are doing is not moving the needle for the brand and the business, then there's going to be a problem eventually. It is even more important within a franchise model because you are partnering with and even supported by the investments of franchise owners. And so I even consider myself almost a steward of their success, and it becomes even more important to me in that franchise model because I want to ensure that these entrepreneurs who are investing in the brand and the business in their own communities and markets are as successful and as profitable as they can be.
I love the word you've used, a steward, because one of the things that I've learned in speaking with many franchisors in the past couple of years, the best do see their roles as stewards of, some people are investing their life savings into these franchises. So I love it. Now, let's face it, CMOs are often pulled between near-term campaign results and long-term brand building. It's this dance that's constantly in place, right? I need to make things happen, but I also need to build for the future because a year from now, there'll be the next quarter happening right there, right? So how do you ensure your marketing strategy stays aligned with the company's growth goals? And where do you find the biggest friction points in making that happen?
Totally fair question. Because understandably, just like I was saying, working with entrepreneurs in a franchise system, for example, we want the sales today. But the way that I would sort of couple that is we also want our customers, our clients, to love our brand tomorrow. We do want them to ultimately have a relationship with us and not just be a quick transaction. And so for that reason, I am constantly asking questions of myself, my team. Is this on strategy? Is this on brand? So that we can find ways to ensure that our focus on that near-term success, the near-term sales, is still done in a consistent way where we're building a reliable, repeatable marketing engine that isn't just getting the quick sale today.
See, I love that. I think a lot of people fail to see, not necessarily marketers, but some of the CEOs and boards sometimes who are just not as aligned as or informed as they should be. They fail to see that the long-term brand building impacts the near-term results a year from now. There'll be a quarter a year from now. That's the next quarter or the quarter where you need to do the results. So it's so important to do that. And it's necessary to do both. And one thing I've also seen, especially in the franchise business, there's a lag between the investment and the outcome sometimes, because you're building authority, you're building presence, and you have to maintain that presence, especially with reviews and how you show up, right? Which establishes credibility and trust. So when you don't do enough of that long term, then it impacts the short term next quarter results a year from now, sometimes, or 3 quarters from now. So it's a tough thing to balance. And then what makes it even more challenging is sometimes you get into high stakes situation like a brand crisis or a market downturn or something that is out of your control, right? So how do you then maintain a sense of purpose and empathy while making quick strategic decisions? Purpose and empathy meaning you're the steward of those investments or those investors, but there's challenges happening, right? So how do you balance getting things done, but also being purposeful in doing it?
I hear you. It is tough to sort of make those right decisions and operate in a crisis or in an urgent or time sensitive situation. Totally get it. That doesn't mean that we would step away from the two things that I just referenced, ensuring that we're taking actions that are on strategy, pointed in the right direction, on brand, true to who we are, our DNA. But in most consumer-facing businesses, it doesn't hurt to just pause and understand how and how well we are helping our customers or clients. There is just so much truth, and this is not rocket science. This is not a new idea. To just saying what's best for that customer, what's best for our client. French Florist is in the floral industry. We see our brand purpose as creating more love in life through flowers. And so as long as we are laser focused on the clients that we're helping, the moments that we're trying to sort of fulfill or realize for them, with them through flowers, it will almost always lead us in the right direction.
I love that. But sometimes there's challenges in getting alignment, right? Because it's not just marketing operating in an island. So I'm curious, especially when like launching new markets, which is a reality for franchisors. So what's been the most effective way to get alignment between sales, the product or customer success teams, the entire ecosystem? And where does that alignment usually tend to break down in your experience? What's the thing to look out for, especially for other marketers who might be listening who are struggling with the same thing?
Yeah, I think internal communication is everything. And even smaller businesses can still have some of those unintended silos between functions that should be partnering for key initiatives that go across the brand and the business. And so when we're launching something new, and this can sometimes sort of get a little smile or maybe even an eye roll from members of my team, I am constantly talking about strategy briefs or a strategy on a page. If there is a concise description of what we're trying to achieve, why, the key success metrics, and the different roles of folks, a lot of it becomes more simplified and clear and aligned. And what I found is if we're operating a little too loosely and don't have that sort of reference document or plan, that's when the communication and alignment can break down, and we might sort of lose some of that clarity about who is doing what, when, and what we're trying to achieve.
Nice. Now you're in the kind of business that I like to call, it's a business that invokes emotions. Whether you're listening to music or looking at art, it's going to evoke an emotion, a response.
Right.
And flowers especially are used for different varied emotional situation, whether it's celebrating something or in a more somber situation like a funeral. So I'm just curious, can you share a time when maybe customer feedback or behavioral data completely shifted your campaign direction? And what I'm talking about is sometimes the data says one thing, and we like to be really data driven, but then you're hearing really something else that in some cases is contrary to what the data is saying. So what has that taught you about balancing intuition with analytics?
That is a fantastic question, because especially in this current situation and landscape for marketers, or even just anybody in business, there's a lot of data, and folks can sometimes be overly reliant on the data. Data is an input, but data is not the decision maker. And so I'm constantly coaching my team or others about ensuring that we have the right inputs, but remember that ultimately the decision is going to have multiple inputs, and we, human beings, are the decision makers. And so a lot of times the numbers, the quantitative metrics can sort of tell us what is happening, but then we, based on our experience, our expertise, sometimes even that intuition, need to put together the why. A retail business like ours, so we're brick and mortar floral shops in addition to online e-commerce. That retail footprint and presence is an example that comes to my mind in terms of the data leading us in a different way. By having different markets that we operate in, we have now learned that different markets or cities or towns do have different personalities. You can't use sort of a cookie cutter blanket approach based on how well established different incumbent competitors or peer brands are. The paid media landscape can be very different. And honestly, even the composition of that community based on ethnicity and religion, household income, those are critical pieces to sort of understand the best path forward to sort of most effectively operate within that community or that market. And so what I've actually loved is partnering with our entrepreneurs, the franchise owners in their markets, to understand what needs to be sort of custom or bespoke to their community to ensure that they're serving those clients as well as we can.
I love that. And it's a balancing act, because data will show you how to best optimize the transaction. However, it's not going to help you create the experience or the memory that's going to create this stickiness, because you don't understand the why, the intention that comes through engagement and community connection and community commitment. And that's one of the gifts of franchising, that you have that local presence that gives you that feedback loop that's often missing from just the data. I love that. 100%. Now, as you think about your current growth stage, we're talking about turning marketing into a revenue growth engine here. What are the most important business outcomes marketing is expected to influence, and where is work still needed to operate like a predictable revenue engine? What feels harder than it should in marketing right now?
So, like I was sharing, just in terms of having a lot of data, it is still critical to sort of understand signal from the noise and the fact that data is coming from many different places. So we do have to be very proactive and intentional about what I'd consider sort of the single source of the truth, or the most important data points or metrics for the business. But in terms of that, ensuring that our marketing engine is driving predictable revenue and growth, the different categories or industries are going to sort of have different seasonalities. That can take a little time sometimes to sort of understand or predict. But what I tend to find is one of the trickiest parts to sort of predict or build into the model is sort of the macro microeconomy. There can be headwinds and tailwinds that are just different from a prior quarter or a prior year. And so even with a lot of information on hand to benchmark versus prior periods, there can be differences that produce a little more unpredictability than we would wish. I think another thing is there's so much focus on customer acquisition, but honestly, there should be even more focus on the retention and developing that relationship with clients. That is a wonderful way to sort of smooth the bumpiness of revenue in a win-win manner for both the brand and the clients.
That is so important, building that repeatability, because I mean, I can just relate to it. My wife got into the habit of getting fresh flowers every week for the house. So she is a consistent, regular customer at the same place all the time, because she finally found the place and she goes there all the time. But it's something that they have nurtured. And like, do you need fresh flowers for the week? You know, do you plan to get them for the week? Why don't you come every week? The best day to come is on this day. We get them fresh. Mm-hmm. So they understood her needs by talking with her, and now she's always getting the flowers. So yeah, I 100% understand. And the macroeconomics, that's a big challenge. And franchises are probably best at doing this, even though the technology is not up to snuff yet to really do it. So I feel the pain of getting that done. Mm-hmm. It's a big challenge. Now let's shift a little bit about building high performance teams, because it'd be nice if we could do everything ourselves as CMOs, and you got a lot of technology today, but you still need people, and you want them to feel good about their job, and you want them to perform at their best. So what's your approach to developing marketing talent, so not only they hit performance goals, but they stay engaged and inspired? And where do you see leaders struggling most in retaining their top talent?
Mm-hmm. The place where I begin is even just thinking about what would be motivating and exciting for myself. And I try as much as I can to apply that with my own organization. At the end of the day, I think high performing teams, they want big problems to solve, meaningful problems or opportunities to tackle for the brand and the business. So that's step one. In our organization, we talk about rocks. We have quarterly rocks, and these are big initiatives that are the most important thing for that person or that team to achieve in that quarter. We talk about it every week, but it's very clear what those rocks are. The other thing is trusting your people. And so nobody likes being micromanaged, whether we're talking about work or outside of work. And so I think ultimately you have to realize they were hired for a reason. You hired them for a reason. They're on your team because they're experts in their field. And so I want to give my team members the autonomy to own it and solve it.
I love that. That is so key. And that actually is what separates CMOs from those who shouldn't be CMOs. Really, the job of a CMO is to develop leaders, let them do their best work. If you're having to manage day in and day out stuff, then you're not really a CMO. But that's a tough thing, because a lot of businesses want to hire the practitioner and don't often see the CMO as an executive who's there to develop the organization and the team. But then those who get it, they do extraordinarily well. Sounds like you got a nice balance there. Now let's
we do, Julia, and actually just one thing that you've reminded me of, which was just sort of sage advice that someone had shared with me at one point, and that was that a great leader is not leading to produce more followers. You're leading to create more leaders.
Absolutely. That's the number one job. I always I want to hire people that are better than me, that they can put me out of my job. If I don't hire the right people that can put me out of my job, then I failed as a leader. Move me out of it, move me up as you move up, or move me out of it. But that's that's how you get people that are unstoppable, and you can't compete with organizations like that. So let's wrap this up, because this show is really about being purposeful, and it's about expanding empathy and how those things create impact. So I'm curious, how do purpose and empathy shape the way you approach marketing today? And can you share maybe a personal story where your work either had a meaningful impact on a customer or an employee?
Would love to. So I'm absolutely fortunate to work in a business where our brand purpose and being purpose driven are so central to everything that we do. French Florist is focused on creating more love in life through flowers, and so we recognize that purpose means making things better, leaving things in a better state than they were. And we're super fortunate to be focused on creating campaigns and initiatives that help people. Like you said earlier, flowers are part of some of the most meaningful moments between people, and we feel extremely fortunate to do that and to focus on it. We actually aim to elevate how we can deliver on that purpose even more through a concept that we've sort of borrowed called unreasonable hospitality. And that's going so far and beyond what the client would expect. An example of that just happened during the World Cup. And one of our franchise owners had some amazing VIP premium tickets to a game. Ultimately, for various reasons, they weren't able to use the tickets themselves. So we gave them to one of their most dedicated clients. The grandmother was able to bring her soccer fanatic granddaughter to this extraordinary experience, watching a World Cup game, amazing seats, amazing premium experience, and an incredible memory for the two of them that they will never forget. And it just, we did it just because. It had nothing to do with flowers. This was an act of unreasonable hospitality to recognize somebody who was just one of our most dedicated clients, and a person who had already brought French Florist into so many meaningful moments in her life, and we just wanted to return the favor.
I love it. If you're in the B2C business, regardless of what industry you're in, you've got to read that book. It's a book on reasonable hospitality. In fact, we spoke with Mike Davis last week, who's the CEO of Neighborly, one of the largest franchise in the world. They're in the home service business, but they live by this hospitality principle. And when you speak with them, you're like, are you in a home service or hospitality business?
Exactly.
Because at the end of the day, it's all about creating a great experience, and people remember that. So I love that. That's amazing. I love that you guys have done that. That's a business that's committed to empathy and purpose and going above and beyond just meeting the numbers. Really, thank you, Ben, for joining us on the Marketing with Purpose series today. It's been great to have you.
I've really enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
I hope today's conversation sparked new ideas for how you can build stronger connections across teams and create marketing strategies that are not only measurable and impactful, but more aligned and collaborative, and dare I say, more human. If you found value in this discussion, please like it, subscribe, share it, comment, and keep the conversation going. Remember, great marketing doesn't just perform and sell. It connects and it serves. See you next time.